Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Creative Amplifiers live show. It is a fun day, Monday, and today we're going to be talking about Substack, what it is, why we use it, how we've built our community with it, and so on. But first of all, let's say hello to Mark and Lisa. Hello, how are you doing?
All good, thank you very much. How are you doing in the I see Saeed has already mentioned about the clock change and the general darkness that's going on. I'm with you, Saeed.
It gets a bit depressing, doesn't it? You've had this nice sunshine up until 4 or 5 o'clock, and now it just seems to go dark. But it's still light for Lisa. It's
for now till Sunday. We have our
till
time change, and
Sunday.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
It's not fun, is it? Well, thanks for joining us, Saeed. So yes, today, let's talk about Substack. We are avid users of Substack, both as the Creative Amplifiers unit and also individually. We've all got our own individual Substack pages, hubs, depending. We'll talk about terminology later because I don't actually know what to call them. It's a site, isn't it? At the end of the day, it is a hub. It is a site. So, for those of you who don't know what Substack is, well, it's a platform that lets you create your own newsletter that can just go straight into people's email. So think of it as email newsletters on steroids, and it's basically a platform like having your own online magazine. We'll talk about the types of content, that you can have on Substack in a minute. And there's a charge model as well. So you can have free subscribers. You can have people to subscribe to specific newsletters for different content. And it's a great place to owning your audience and not relying on the social media algorithms. And I think that's what makes Substack different from many other platforms, because it allows you obviously to own your email list and control who you interact with. And the fun thing about Substack is it doesn't rely on these algorithms like pushing, what content you want to see in the feed. We're going to talk about the different feeds and workflows in Substack throughout this show today. But for me, the reason why I chose Substack is because I didn't want to go down the route of constantly posting on social media platforms like X and Threads and others. And as you remember, I had that debate some time back around what social media platform should I be choosing. So for me in particular, I decided Substack was a nice platform to have. I did start with Beehive, talk about some of the competitors to Substack later. And the reason why I moved from Beehive to Substack is because I think Substack offers many more ways of being able to get your messages, your emails, your content out there in one sort of hub, which we'll mention, and really how you can craft your followers and your audience and own that email list. So for me, that's why I like Substack and why I think it's different. But over to you guys. What's sort of your thoughts and why did you sort of start with Substack over many others that potentially could be out there?
I jumped into it because I just felt it was like having your own media company, and you can do what you want. There's no gatekeepers. So I love the fact you call it a hub. I agree with you. It's a hub, and you can have anything you want in there. You want your podcast in there, it's right there. You want to write, you can do that. You want to do audio only. You want to have a social media aspect, which is notes as far as I'm concerned, like what X or Threads is. So having all that in one space that your followers can go to and choose, I called it the poo-poo platter, but choose what they want to experience with you. And do you have the option of creating what you want to create as far as the type of content? I think it's brilliant. So that's why I jumped on it.
And I think for me, I sort of got into it through the three of us kind of going on our journey. But I think it's the fact that, like you said, because of the email list and because people are interacting it in lots of different ways, I was able just to throw lots of content onto it that supplemented what I was already doing. That meant that it didn't seem to disappear. It's part of that community that's sort of gradually growing. So if I wanted to just to put one of my podcasts up, I could do that. If I did a short, I could add that into it. And, it looks from the back end that, people are opening a lot of these things through the email as well as actually being on Substack as well. So there's a bit more interaction and a bit more people that have actually subscribed and started following. We're really kind of making note of what those things were. So from my point of view, it just sort of was a nice organic way rather than just posting to every social or whatever, and you can actually have a little bit more of a personal connection.
I think the personal connection is really, really important with Substack. And as we mentioned, because it's sort of not relying on the algorithm, then you can really sort of start to search for people who have your own interest. And Substack started as a platform for writing, for writers. So similar to Medium and Beehive and all the other sort of platforms out there back in the old blogging days. It's really like a blog on steroids because it's a beautiful interface. It's fully customizable. You can have the look and feel however you want, and there's lots of different types of content that you can put on Substack, which brings us actually nicely into the fact that Substack is your content hub, right, Mark? That's basically what we use it as right now for our content.
Yeah, so if we sort of rewind back to where we were, we decided to start our show. We thought we'd do these live shows on YouTube, and from there we'd sort of see where we wanted to go. And as we started to progress, we're like, well, we can offer workshops, or we could write some content as well as be live, and then we need to have social channels for all the different things as well. And it suddenly gets very complex quite quickly. And then, like at the end of the show, you're saying, okay, so now go to where? So, we had a sort of a link tree, and then, or you could do this, and then Instagram. And it just sort of felt like there was a way of actually, where did we want to just suddenly hang out? And the hub is exactly what worked, because it just meant that we could have the podcast on there. We even moved the hosting, because we were sort of piggybacking on my Captivate hosting, which was working because I can use lots of different shows on that, to actually have it actually hosted in Substack. We were able to then do those posts when we weren't actually going live, which kept a lot of really good content going out regularly. We had the notes, and it just meant that, where do you want to go? Go and do Substack. So when people ask me, because my podcast is in education, it's very different. So people ask me, do you do any sort of content creation? Or when they ask me about podcasting and things, I can just able to say, go to creativeamplifiers.substack.com, and then you're there. You've got all those things. They can see all the content we've produced. They can see the live things. You can watch the video, listen to the podcast, and it's all just there. And it just is a really sort of homely feel, and you kind of feel you've got that personal connection, and actually you can see so much from the back end as well. And like I said, you see how many people are sort of opening through the email as well as just sort of coming across it and opening it on the app and everything. And it gives you sort of a really good idea. And I just think from my own experience, having sort of built what I've done, my podcast separate from the actual podcast itself is sort of my website. And then it's, well, if I write a blog, then I need to send it out through my newsletter, which isn't connected to my website apart from the sign up, and then do this and then do that, and then try and put those on socials, and then do lots of things. And before you know it, it feels very sort of disseminated, whereas this sort of feels the complete opposite of that, which I think is what I've really enjoyed.
Yeah, definitely. I think it gets complicated when you've got content that you want to put on different platforms. And I'm not saying that Substack it's not an aggregator to push to everywhere, but it is a great hub, as you mentioned, to be able to field content that you really are interested in, and more importantly, what your audience is interested in. I started with Beehive because I couldn't get my head around Kit at the time, ConvertKit as it was called, which is what a lot of people use. But ConvertKit or Kit has a lot more in it as well. Digital download, you can sell stuff and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't really interested in that at the time. I just wanted a place where people that have subscribed to me in the past through other methods, I've got email addresses now, and I would like to start creating a newsletter. And for me, Beehive, I found a little bit clunky at the time. It's probably got a lot better now. But then I discovered Substack. I think it was either Lisa or I think it was Lisa who mentioned something around Substack, and I thought, well, I don't know what that is. So let's have a look at it. And I started playing with it myself, and then said, let's talk about getting the creative amplifiers on this platform as well, because it just lends itself right where we need to be. We wanted to write articles that are useful for people. We wanted to host our podcast somewhere, and we also wanted to be able to interact and talk with people in our community.
Yeah. One of the things I love about it is you were talking about the email list, and some people still use ConvertKit and this in conjunction, depending on what you need. You have access to these emails. You don't have that on YouTube. You don't have that on Instagram. You don't have that on any other platform. That's gold. And the fact that you have access to this and it's yours, and if Substack should go away, you still have that is your gold. So I love the fact that that's part of how the platform is set up. that, you really do have control over keeping your community and knowing who's in it and having the access and their information. I would say also, as you're thinking about building out a content hub, really be mindful and sit down as to what is it you want to start with. Don't start too broad, trying to do too many things. And then kind of map out how the ecosystem is going to work as a whole and how they cross over and how you can start to, because you do need some type of social. You need to go out to get eyeballs somewhere else. How can you take this content that you're putting on onto Substack and repurpose it to do a quick, tweet or a quick Threads post or do a short, Instagram post from it. So I think it's lovely that it sets you up, that you have your main content there to do with whatever you wish and distribute it however you want. So it's creating that ecosystem in a small way and then thinking about distribution and thinking about loops. How can, if you have a like we have this video and we send it out to YouTube, how can it loop back? What are ways we can make it loop back? So now we're working, both platforms. And so I'm not going to get into that because that goes deep, but it's just something to think about. This is just the start of how you can really build out, like I said, your media company.
And I think as well, it was that sense when we were talking about it, about we didn't necessarily know exactly what the next steps were going to be. We talked about we're going to do workshops and we're going to have the opportunity to share more and more of what we're going to do. But because you have the option really easily within Substack to kind of have like say the membership tier or a paywall, even if it's only on a newsletter, we're just going to share a little bit more information, and that's easily done. And actually we're going to do a whole workshop, and that's going to be something for a certain tier of members. We're not having to then design a whole new place to be and a whole new thing to do for that. We can do it on here with the click of a couple of buttons and just setting up a little bit of copy. And so we could sort of organically move in our own time without, like, say, planning the next 5 years and thinking it has to look like this in this particular way, otherwise this is going to go away, or whatever it happens to be. And so I think that having it as a hub where the sort of the spider's web can go out in whichever direction works really nicely for you in your own time without having to suddenly go down another rabbit hole to do a whole new thing felt really, really nice for me.
I think one of the things that I like about Substack and just email newsletters in general, in this fast-paced, fast editing, short attention span world, it's really nice to be able to create something and craft something that you can be proud of and then let people read it. And whether that is a personal story, whether it's a tip, whether it's something around your journey, whether it's something you just want to share from a personal perspective. I think the fact that you can communicate via these email newsletters, it arrives in somebody's inbox, and then you can see obviously whether they've read it, what type of interaction you've had. They can comment back on that as well. I think there's something really nice about reading somebody's newsletter, and I don't know how many newsletters you guys subscribe to. I don't try and oversubscribe to newsletters. Said's in the house. I get his newsletter regularly, and a few other people in the community, and it's just really nice because people get a different perspective from you, and it's not all about selling. It is actually just having something nice to read about your journey, and as I said, either a personal story. So, and as to Lisa's point, you own that email list. So if something goes wrong, you can take it somewhere else. You can repurpose that. There's lots of things you can do with an email list where you can't with views, subscribers, and followers on various other platforms. So. It's a great community to have, and it's a great place to ask the community, what does the community want? If you are trying to build a business, if you are trying to work on a particular topic, then if you've already got a following, a community that you can communicate via email, why not go and just speak to the community and say, are there things specific that I should be covering in this newsletter? What do you want to see from me? And would you be interested in sort of more higher end content where you can maybe put a subscriber model against it, which we'll talk about very shortly. And with that, that's the Content Hub. If you've got any questions, by the way, people who have joined us tonight, what is Substack? What email systems do you use? Do you prefer emailing versus being on social media platforms? Do you augment the two? Do you mix and match? Let us know. Let's talk about notes, because this is an interesting one that hasn't been around very long in Substack, right? Because if we go back to Substack at the beginning, it was just aimed at people doing creative writing, building an email list, putting it in their inbox, move on. But recently, I say recently, it's been a few months now, but they've started to introduce lots of other things. So what's Notes all about?
I would say Notes is the social media aspect of Substack. So you think of, like I said, Twitter, or excuse me, X, and Threads, and I know, X and Threads. It's those, those quick bites. And I think for Substack, it's used as an engagement component. You can write anything you want to write on Substack. They could be, there's a limit. I think it's 80 to 100 characters is what you want. Don't quote me, but I think it's somewhere around there. And it could be something quick. It could be something that's going on in your day. It could be something to quote. It could be anything you want. But it's a way to engage and to have people connect with you and your community connect with you. You can do videos on there. You could do an audio in there. So think about on Instagram and you're doing a quick video post. So it just allows you to have that engagement. They suggest that you post at least 3 notes a week, 3 to 5 notes a week. Some people do 3 to 5 notes a day. Depends on how aggressive you're trying to build and trying to, spread your wings on Substack and get more people to get more eyeballs to see what you're doing. But I think it's a interesting component because, like I said, it is the social engagement aspect of it. So it's not just about your your main things that you're putting out as far as in the newsletter or videos or lives that you might be doing. So
yeah,
and it's not just a Southern California thing, is it? It's actually a social networking thing.
What does that mean, Mark?
Oh.
I was just looking at the banner at the bottom.
Oh.
Yeah, because I didn't spell it right. There you go. Well, you see that you got to fact check the thing. But thanks for that. I'm just going to correct it in a minute. That's so funny. SoCal. It is. It's about Southern California. That's it. It's Southern California networking. That's what we're talking about here tonight.
That's why you went to Lisa.
Exactly.
That's why you went to me. I remember I forgot something. There's different ways you can use your notes. And so there's a thing called restacking, which is really good for you to have engagement or for people to find you. So say Mark writes a note, I really like it, and I restack it on mine. My people get to see it. So now you've built out more eyeballs. I love using that word, but more eyeballs to see what you're reading. And then now I've pushed Mark and what he's writing. And so that can help him build. And I think a lot of what Substack is about is let's help each other grow. There's a lot of that, the underlying points of it, because you do have recommendations. You can recommend other publications and people look at that, your people look at that, and then it grows. You have the restacking, like you just said. Other people are seeing it, so you help somebody else grow. So it has a component that I think, Instagram is trying to do some things like that. YouTube is trying to do something like that now. But I think that's really helpful. Yeah.
And the notes can be formatted quite nicely as well in terms of just how they're presented. It's not just like a tweet or on Threads or other platforms where you don't have any markdown or anything that you can change. So you can put bullets, you can bold, you can put URLs, you can put and it does a really
graphics.
It does a really good job, right, of taking like a YouTube video and pop it in there and things. And one thing I've noticed that I do like about the notes feature as well is it's chronological. So if you look at because there is a suggestion as well. So obviously based on your interest, there will be like a for you. So it is going to suggest people that you may not have come across yet in there. But if you just click on the notes that you're following, everything is chronological. So, and you're right, people don't post every day. I was looking at one from yourself, Lisa, and I thought, oh, this is cool. I'll just like this note that you posted and realized it was from like the 17th of October. But, it doesn't matter because they're still relevant and they're still in your feed, where if you've ever tried to go to any of the other social platforms, if you're not on it constantly and looking, it's gone, right? Yeah, that's why I think there's a tendency in social media platforms like Threads and Blue Sky and X and all these others to overpost. You wanting to be posting 6 to 11 times a day. I was speaking to somebody who posts like 30 tweets a day. That just seems an awful lot, right? But you've got to be able to get yourself above the noise in a platform that's so big and so concerned with supplying these different suggested people for you, where your tweets, your messages can get really lost into the weeds. So that's one of the other things I think Substack has over the others. And I know we talk about no algorithm, but just the way that it presents those notes is really nice.
It's like high conversation and not a lot of noise.
Yeah, which is what it should be, right?
Yeah. And one of the things I would say is there's something about the feeling of being on Substack as a community that feels very cohesive and friendly. And I think one way to sort of describe that is the fact that if I think of a community that I'm involved in outside of Substack, you know, you sort of have people that you like, people you get on with, people that obviously you want to interact with more. And what I'm finding is those people are the people that are on Substack already. And so I'm sort of finding that they're sort of like-minded people and people that I want to follow and people I want to interact with, because it's those types of people are using Substack in a way which is really positive. They're sharing great information. They're being really supportive to other people. So I think that the feeling of Substack as an entity feels very friendly in a way that maybe some of the other social networks certainly don't. And yeah, a place I want to hang out, which I think is a key thing as well, because obviously we're all time poor in many ways, so we want to make sure that where we are spending our time is somewhere we really want to be.
And that's a great tip, because as you're building your community, reach out to the people that are doing the same thing you're doing. And that's something we, like you just said, you don't do on the other platforms necessarily all the time. And it's encouraged. And I've already met some really wonderful people that are in my space. And, you know, we do kind of private back and forths and jokingly about things we're discussing. And so take advantage of that. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody who's doing what you're doing.
Very different from the normal platforms. Are you saying the other platforms might be a little bit feisty, a little bit bitter in some cases? Let's not talk about that. No. Let's go to the comments for a second. A few few messages from Saeed here. So Saeed says, picking the topics, people, and interests I want to see content from. This isn't the internet, I know. That's probably true. You get fed all kinds of nonsense. Have you ever gone to your Instagram feed recently and looked at like the For You? Because Instagram has this really nice way, just a little tangent, of not showing you by default the posts from the people that you're following. It's always For You. You can change it to following and you go back into the app and boom, it's like For You again, or suggestions. I don't want to see all these people. I don't care about them. Anyway, and that's the different thing, I think. And that's why it's important to be on a platform that you want to be on, so you can actually integrate and engage with people who have the same interest. Saeed says the great thing about real newsletters, not LinkedIn ones, let's talk about that one, is that you can opt in and let people into that sacred inbox, because that is real commitment, right? If you are popping in as an email into somebody's inbox, they have made that decision that they want to hear from you, right? Unless obviously you get massively unsubscribed and so on. But the point is that it's an important place to be, because LinkedIn, and I know what you're saying, Saeed, with LinkedIn newsletters, it's basically the LinkedIn feed, and you click on that, and it's a different mindset, I think, a different workflow. So to have an email coming into your inbox is a real commitment versus just getting sporadic, tweets and messages all the time. And I think that is a big difference as well.
On a tangent of that, if you're trying to build up your Substack and you don't want to bombard people with an email all the time, you can't just post and not send it out as an email. It'll just show up into your content. And so you can quietly build. And then as you feel like, oh, I think my followers or subscribers would like to read this, then you can go back and reset it and it'll go out as a newsletter. So my point is don't necessarily hold back. If you, like Mark, you have a ton of content, you could just batch up a bunch of things, and then now you've really filled up your Substack, and then you can send it as you wish or not, or whatever, or pull notes from it, and don't feel like you're beholden that it has to go out as an email.
I think that is a good point, actually, because you can just have it go to the app as well, right? So you can have these messages just go, these posts, because there's posts and there's notes and there's other thing, but they can go just straight to the app, I didn't realize that you could just post them to your page
Yeah.
without
And just,
actually posting them. Mm-hmm.
in the back end, wherever the the different
Yeah.
categories you have, it can go to that, and it's there. It's just filling it up. Like I did a post, and I had within the post, I had a thing about a recipe. I'm not posting recipes that much anymore, but I made a post about the recipe if somebody wanted it. It's sitting there. I didn't send that out to my newsletter people, but it's there because it's it's a link, inbound link within the original piece.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, play with it.
Definitely. Let me just get rid of this a second. Just want to say hello to King Paco Nintendo Lover. I saw you on my feed the other day, so welcome. What is your real name, by the way? Unless that is your real name. But let me know what your real name is, because it's always nice to know who we're talking to. Hello, George. No quiz tonight, George, but, thank you for joining us. It's wonderful. How are you doing, by the way? I haven't seen you for a while. And Said mentioned, it's a good point, this. Maybe we can discuss this. Some argue that newsletters aren't communities since they're one directional. Even if people can comment or like, it's more about consuming and reacting to your content than building real interaction. I think it depends on what the reactions are and how people actually do interact with that, because that can provoke a conversation. It can provoke an email back. So just to give you an example before you guys chip in, when some of the people that are on my Substack community actually send me an email afterwards, not just a comment on Substack, but they actually sent me an email saying, well, thanks for that particular tip or whatever it was that I was posting, and they do mention around how it resonated with them or they found it useful. And to me, that's real engagement, because that person then either becomes a potential customer or a follower or somebody that's really interested in your content. So I do think there are aspects definitely of a conversation. Now, it depends what your definition of community is, of course, where if people are helping each other out. But I do think there is a community-based spirit around email interaction. But happy to hear what you guys think.
I think, Said, once you put your newsletter out, there's the chat component that is in Substack that you can just start a chat thread. And so say I posted a newsletter and I start a thread of, did this resonate with you? Did it help you? Blah, blah, blah. You can have that, actual conversation within the chat section of Substack. Now, how you choose to monitor that, you can have it open to everybody, or you can only have it open to subscribers, so you don't have, a troll or two popping in. But there is that capability that when you start to think again, I was talking about like the loop of how, if you put something out, how can you make it helpful for the community, make it helpful for building, what you're doing. That's, I think, how you solve that, that issue of it's just one way. You can make it a two-way street.
I think also that like we said before, if someone signed up to receive an email, that's a personal thing. And I think my newsletters, when they go out, sometimes you get interaction back because it's a particular type of thing. The most interesting thing I found, because you can go a while and someone not necessarily respond to what you've done, because I'm generally sharing content I've created or tips or companies or people that I've interviewed or whatever it happens to be. But I got the most interaction having taken 4 or 5 weeks off in the summer. I just said the content's still going out. There's still some of this stuff, but I'm not going to be interacting, just so you know. And I did one which was just kind of, hey, I'm back, and I got more interaction just saying great to see you back than anything else. I wasn't posting anything useful particularly. It was just a kind of, hey, here we are. And I thought, well, actually, there are people in that community who obviously are reading these things, despite what you look at the clicks and all the rest of it, who are reading these things. They're glad of what you're actually doing. And it's just those odd little touch points. It can mean, yeah, this is a real community because they've given them your email or they've given their email, and actually they are really part of what you're trying to produce. And there might be a little bit of a differentiation because you're not hearing about it in the live, or, or Saeed or George that's interacting in this particular moment. You've got much more of that immediate community feel. But I think that there is something about that, and it just depends on what you're wanting out of it. And it can be hard when you feel like you're giving a lot and not receiving anything back in that immediate term. But I think as a fabric of what you're trying to do across all the things that you're generating, I think it's a really integral one.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. And I think people love to read as well. I mean, in the age, as I mentioned, where all this content is just out there all the time, and there's such small, short-based content where people have to put captions and everything, and it's video first. There is a lot of people who are still traditionally love to read. I've mentioned to you guys, I've changed my entire sleep pattern and getting better sleep every evening now just by reading for half an hour, 45 minutes on the Kindle, not the phone, not the blue light nonsense, all that other stuff, just actually taking a breath and reading something and consuming something that way. And I think if you are really passionate about creating content that is in the written form, back to what Substack originally was for, then there is a huge community for that. Well, let's just talk a little bit. I know we mentioned about the Content Hub, and we touched on a few things, but just to be clear for people who aren't fully aware of the capabilities and what Substack is able to do, yes, it's a writing first platform. I think that's fair to say. That's exactly what it's designed to do. But over the years, they've introduced various other things. Lisa spoke about notes. So you've got the social interaction aspect now as well. Mark has already mentioned that you can host your podcast. So, and keep in mind, just to put this point forward, is that Substack is completely free, right? So right now, Substack is free for all this content that we're putting on there. So we're putting our podcasts, we're hosting our podcasts, and all the images and the transcription is done automatically. You can put all the chapters in, all that kind of stuff. Everything is hosted on Substack for free. We've got all our notes that we're doing and we're posting. We've got all our actual posts, which are emailed. It's doing all the email notifications. It's looking at all the analytics. It's sending all the emails out as well. And on top of that, for some of you who are watching potentially live right now, we're actually live streaming to Substack for this show as well. So Substack has now enabled you to post your live content directly in your Substack feed. So your subscribers to your email newsletters will get notified, if you enable that we are going live at a particular time as a schedule, or they'll just get notified as soon as we push the button and go live. And I think that's amazing, where now you've got the social interaction of the newsletters, as well as being able to see the three of us. And it's not just, a faceless post that we're doing. There's actually real people at the back end of that, as well as actually, hearing our podcast as well. So there's multiple ways now that Substack is allowing you to promote your content. So, and I think, Lisa, to what you mentioned to us a few months ago, there was a little bit of backlash with the traditional writers, because they said, well, this is a writing platform. We don't want all these content creators from TikTok coming over and played like, because a lot of people from TikTok came over, right, to Substack as a platform.
It's interesting. I'm not going to pull it up now because I'll lose my focus over here, but I do believe now they have video as their first thing when you go on to talk about Substack. I thought I just saw that. Maybe I didn't.
Okay.
And then as far as the money, the only time money is given to them is once you actually start having tiered subscriptions. They take 10% of whatever that is.
Right.
So, hey, how do I know to do that? To segue into the
ways to monetize.
How to monetize. So it's free until you start actually having it being behind a paywall.
Right. So let's talk about it. So I guess there's different ways to monetize on Substack. So as Lisa's mentioned, that you can have different tiered subscription models to your content. So just like many other platforms, you start off with a free newsletter, and you can choose whatever content you want to send out in that. And then there are multiple, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, there's multiple tiers then where you can set a price point for specific content. So, for example, if you we haven't done this yet, and we'll talk about reasons why we haven't done it versus what we will do, is if you went to the Creative Amplifiers site, you could see the subscribe button, and you click on that, and then you get potentially 1 or 4 options. I think there can be more, right? There can be multiple options. It's not just limited. I think there's 4 tiers that you can have, or something like that.
Well, there's free. There's whatever the monthly. There's a like legacy or whatever you want to call it, that they pay a bigger price and they have that forever. which actually allows people to have more access to you. That's the reason to do that.
Yeah.
Depending on how you're building it out. But go on.
And you set the price, right? So it's not governed by what.
Yeah.
What
and it starts at $5 a month is what they recommend.
Yeah. But you could have it for as little as 99 cents, right? You could have it whatever you want. It's all about
$5.
It's $5. Okay. And it's all about putting that value on what you believe people will pay for content. And you have to. The same thing happened to me when I was monetized on YouTube. I was like, yeah, I've got to get 4,000 subscribers and all these watch hours, 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours and all this kind of stuff. And then you get monetized and then you read what YouTube talk about. And it's not just about the ways to monetize on YouTube. And the reason why I'm talking about this is one of the reasons why I'm not trying to put a tiered subscription model on my Substack right now is because if you have a paid tier on anything, there has to be a level of commitment for the creator to make sure that if those people are paying good money, whatever that money is, on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis, you better be sure that you have that content ready and don't disappoint. Because that's one of the things, I don't know if you've ever read this in YouTube, it says do not enable a subscription or a membership model without first considering what you're going to give them and whether you can commit to giving them this on this frequency that you have stipulated. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not currently looking at a subscription model on Substack, because I feel I don't know where the time goes half the time with things that I'm planning to do. And I've put in my calendar now 20 minutes every day dedicated to Substack. And that started today. And I've done a really good job of not adhering to that on day one. So I'm doing my best, but I'm going to try. But the point is, there has to be a level of commitment, right? Like to your point, there's no need to post 30 posts a day, but it's recommended to post X amount of notes per week. And that's a small commitment if you can do that to generate that interest to start with as a commitment from me to my followers. That's what I should be doing. But I'm sure as hell not going to ask people to pay for stuff right now and not be able to commit to it. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not doing it, but love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many thoughts from different people. If you don't feel comfortable, there's a pledge type thing you can do where people just donate whatever they want. So it's like buy me a coffee, I guess. You could do that. But it's talking about what do you offer? It doesn't have to be something grand if you want to go ahead and monetize from day one. It could be the lowest tier, the $5 a month. With that, they get access to be a part of your chat. So now, again, you're ruling out people who are going to come and try to troll. You could do one live a month with them. It's like, ask me anything. So you can control what you want to give away. If people really want to be with you and they want to be part of the community and have access and have little extra things, it doesn't have to be a big,
No.
I'm going to give you a course and I'm going to do this.
No,
and
of course. Yeah.
So that's why they suggest go ahead and monetize and just put it behind the paywall. Put it something simple like you have access to my chat. You have access to maybe before my podcast comes out, I'll upload it there and you'll have it for a week before it goes live. Do you know what I'm saying? Like those little things. So people feel like they're special in the community. Yeah. So also, some people choose to build up. They want to get to 100 subscribers before they monetize because they just feel like that's what I should do. Who's going to buy anything from me if I have 2 people? So it's, again, what I love about Substack, you can build it out however you want. There really aren't any, there's suggestions and suggested rules, but you can build it out however you want. So if you want to monetize, just do something small.
So are you monetized currently? Are you thinking about it, Lisa?
No, I'm trying to get to a number and then I'm going to do it because I want to be able to offer a workshop every month with the people that have decided to subscribe with me.
Right.
So I'm just trying to, it's how you want to do it again. Do you want to build up your audience first? Also think about your Substack. It's not just about making money off of, having subscriptions. If you have other products, you have ebooks, you have courses, you have all that. This is a great, hub again to say, hey, I've got this workshop coming up, which we are going to be doing, coming up this month. You want to be a part of it? Here you go. Here's the information. So it's it's not just about I'm trying to make money with my newsletter.
No, yeah, of course. There's other things.
And I think a lot of people think that, and that's not it.
I think going back to the content hub thing, where it's multifaceted, so you don't have to specifically just focus on the newsletter, as you mentioned, the podcasting, the chat, the video, the live workshops, because just like platforms like Circle, Mighty Networks, all these other things, when you build a community, again, you can have that as a free community to start with and have paid for workshops and services that are part of that as well. So it's all around the same sort of workflow, I guess. But as you said, it all depends. And you control that, though. That's the thing. You don't have to make any decisions straight away unless you know that you're going to get a ton of people. That's why I think some people have been miffed with these very high influencers coming over to Substack, bringing all the followers. They're already getting monetized from other platforms and so on, and then they're putting an additional tiers on there, and almost diluting the way that Substack, the spirit of that's it. Thank you. The spirit of Substack, and so yeah. So, but anyway, Mark, I mean, is it something you're considering in the future for your Substack as well, based on obviously you're a podcast first platform?
Yeah, I think as sort of the community grows and you want a little bit more of an intimate community, that sense of being able to we're going to do the lives, we're going to have more in-depth discussions about this, we're going to give you access to some of the guests maybe, or that they've got extra offers that they're able to do. There's obvious ways that you could do that. And so it's something that is on my sort of roadmap, as it were. But for now, it's just a question of let's just start to use the platform in a way which is still relatively new to me. Enjoying it, get the interaction, get the sort of the people that you want to be interacting with for the right reasons, and then sort of move into that monetization from there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Let's just go back.
I think it goes back to something you said, Neil. I'm sorry about when we were talking about doing lives. Are you treating it as a business right now, or is it something that you're exploring, or is it a hobby? You know, those are three different things. Yeah. So, approaching it that way. I'm in the exploration point right now. I'm in exploration mode.
Yeah, and I think it's important to do that, though. I mean, again, if people. Let's take YouTube for an example. We've mentioned that before, and we've talked about it on this show, where people are going into, I'm going to create a YouTube channel. I've got something to say, and I'm going to sell everything, and it's my business, blah, blah. And they go into with the mindset of it's all about the money, and they're really forgetting maybe the essence of why they're there in the first place, and the messages that they're pushing, and the value that they're giving. Because if you're not delivering any value, then your audience is not going to follow you, and they're certainly not going to pay for any of the services. So I think it's important really just to take a breath. You don't have to go straight in, put a subscription. And I've actually seen that, though, recently on Substack, where I've seen a few people join because they said, I've just joined Substack. And then you go and click on the subscribe because they look like they're interesting, and boom, they've got like multiple tiers of payment already. I'm like, well, Give me a little taster. Tell me what you're about before. I'm not gonna sign up. Even take a leaf out of a lot of software companies. They do free trials for a reason. Taste it. Find out whether you like it or not. I mean, you can't do that with food in restaurants, of course, unless you've got a tasting platter. But you get the point, right? The main thing is that you want to have something where people can sort of find out what you're about before you go straight into the tiered model. Saeed mentioned something. I've got notes up here. Let me get rid of notes and social. Too many buttons. Saeed mentions it's also common sense. Imagine Netflix sells you a subscription, but they're only movies from the 90s. I actually thought there were only movies from the 90s on Netflix recently. But, Netflix has got its own problems. But there you go. Yes. And Netflix keeps changing their subscription model, right? They keep putting the prices up and things like that all the time.
The micro dramas are about to infiltrate all of these places.
That's it. Yeah, I love that.
What's happening out here?
Those micro dramas are the way forward. Now, we'll just be AI micro dramas next, and that'll be it then, because people.
I was talking to somebody about that the other day, because why not? You could.
Why not? Yeah, that's a completely different topic as well. And I'd love to talk about that at length as well, particularly after the news show I watched today. So
just before we go on, can I just, one of the things that I thought about before when we were chatting was the different ways of actually coming across content where the hub was really helpful. So, I mean, we love doing the lives, but we're going to be live for, an hour or so. We're also going to be, afterwards, that people can follow what we've done and, like, say, this transcripts and all that sort of stuff that can be possible. But last week we did a post based on this content. And I was sort of thinking, you were saying sometimes about how your time is used and when you want to do it. Because if I saw the same title as this is a video, and then I saw an actual newsletter or a post which is like it, and I'm like, yeah, I've just got a couple of minutes, I'm really interested in this, let me just go down, or I can read this in literally 2 or 3 minutes, or I can then come back to it and do it in more thing. I'm then more likely, hopefully, to then maybe come and watch this, because we can have a conversation about it and find out more details. They might not have ever seen us as a three, talking about these things, but the content came first. And not that we've always got a newsletter that's directly related to the live, but it just sort of struck me that that's the way we've done it in this sort of last couple of weeks. And for me as well, it's just, oh yeah, great. I can just see this as an actual post, get a bit of information, and know I want to then come back and find out more about this in sort of another time, and it can work in tandem, and like I say, that another sort of plus for the hub, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, and we can post this as a separate post, and then we can go back to your post and put a link. I'm all about the links. Put a link to that.
Put the link
so
to
if they
that.
want to watch the video, but yeah, link that up. So
no worries.
do what you want.
I've just noticed a quick comment. I know it's not about the stream. That's no problem. If you want to just put it in the comment and let me know, King Paco, Nintendo lover, let me know, because I know we were talking about this yesterday as a different topic, but that's fine. No problem. So what are we talking about now? Content hub all over the place. Make it your own. Make it your own. Not make it rain. Make it your own. So I think we've covered a lot of this already by just really working out if Substack is for you. First of all, there are tons of platforms out there. Maybe we should just talk a little bit about all the other platforms. I've mentioned Beehive, and they're all, I think a lot of them now are trying to maybe catch up with what Substack is doing, because Substack have been pushing the boundaries, I think, with regards to content, what's available on the platform and what you can actually do with it. Medium, which is one I came across before Substack, which I was considering, because a lot of the content, or some of the content I was trying to do some research on, kept popping up in Medium. I'm like, what the heck is Medium? So you go to Medium. Medium's quite cunning, isn't it? I don't know if you've ever been to Medium. So you find this article that you like. It's like, oh, this is really interesting. You start reading it. You get like a paragraph in, and then there's this sort of white sort of sheen over the top of the text. You're like, what is that? I'm trying to scroll it, and it's like, if you want the full version of this content, you want the full article, now you've got to go and
Substack
subscribe.
Does that.
Yeah, does it?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Ugh, it's so annoying.
Yeah,
It's like,
and I have mixed thoughts about that. But yeah, it definitely you can do that on your post.
yeah, I don't like that. I mean, how I use Substack is that if I've created a newsletter, a post, and I don't want it to be everywhere, I'll just put like the first 5 lines maybe as a, not thread post, a LinkedIn post, for example, and then just a link to the Substack, and just say, if you want to read the full article, click here. But I'm not firewalling it effectively. I'm making it difficult for people then to look. I think some articles should be free, and I think if they're advertising those and you're clicking on them, I think you should say the courtesy is, this is behind a paywall, but please go and check out my other content. Again, giving people a bit of a taster, but it's just a bit annoying that it gets indexed by Google as an article, and then you only get like 3 lines in and you can't read anymore. So Medium is a platform that I think is still sticking to the writer mantra, right? It's just for writers. I don't think they've got any other types of content on there, unless I'm wrong. And then you've got sort of Beehive, who's doing a bit of both, because Beehive also allows you to host your podcast, I think, as well as doing writing. And then you got Substack, which is an amalgamation of pretty much everything. I wonder what's next for Substack. I don't know whether you've had any rumbles.
Ads.
What's happening on
Ads.
okay, and it's good.
Unfortunately. Yeah, I'm sorry.
There it is. Yeah. Well, I don't ads.
It's coming.
On the
I don't know
platform.
when, but I know there's been,
Right.
talk of it. So
What one thing maybe
It does
would
make sense, doesn't it?
I guess so, because I mean they're privately funded, aren't they? And then and where are they getting the money from then? I mean, it's investment at the moment, isn't it? I think Substack.
yeah, I mean, they had a big investment funding not that long ago. So the ads are coming at some point. I just don't
I know they'll take
know
a
how
cut,
that's going to look.
as you said.
Yeah.
And I think you can take so much of your revenue. I have got a sort of a takeaway slide before we wrap up as well, just to talk about a few things. But I think out of the things that we've seen on Substack, what's missing for people who are maybe considering going to Substack? Is there anything that you would like to see added to it around the content? One thing that isn't working for me at the moment very well is they're trying to do a little bit of the Opus Clip stuff. So this content that you'll see is not automatically posted out. So once we finished our live stream, it goes into the drafts folder, and then you're allowed to you can do what you want with it, basically. And it does give you some snippets, what it thinks, AI-based snippets of the best content from the actual show. But it doesn't really allow you to do much else after that. I don't know whether you find that to be quite annoying.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's hit and miss. What I do like is that they do have the social media pieces you can do that you can format for a reel or for a square, a feed post or whatever. And those are handy if you want to quickly shoot those out and let people know about, hey, I've got a new post, and throw it in stories or throw it on your feed. I think that's great. But as far as the Opus Clip kind of copycat, it's not there yet, in my opinion.
From a podcast perspective, Mark, have you looked at any of the podcast features on there? Because I know you've come from and still use Captivate, right, as your sort of syndication platform for podcasts and things like that. Is there anything that you've maybe looked at in Substack, and have you ever considered moving across, as you now have your own Substack? Or
I haven't, but that's partly because my podcast hosting is also wrapped up in my website. And so my package is sort of multifaceted. As a legacy thing, really, I mean, I've been doing it for sort of nearly 10 years. So it need quite a lot for me to kind of change that. Not necessarily in terms of the practicalities of it, but just the amount of, I think, lead time I'd need to do it. It's a little bit like changing a whole sort of series of things you're going to do. You almost like need a certain amount of time to, like selling a house. I know I'm going to move next year, but there's all the stuff you need to do before to be able to do that, and I'm not there at the minute. And I think from what we've done with our podcast, I think if I was just starting out and all of that, I think it'd be a really great option. Whether it gives you as many of the features and the sorts of things you do from a sort of a dedicated podcast perspective, probably not so much, which is always the case when you've got multiple things that you can do. But I think if you're starting from scratch and building it out as a way that you want to, then definitely a great option. Yeah.
Lots of options, I think. And you're right. If you're starting off and wanting a free platform that's everything all in one, where you can host your podcast and everything, then maybe Substack is the way forward. Just a comment from Saeed. Is there, let's say, an eccentric billionaire behind Substack asking, because we know where this could lead? There is a founder. Who are you talking about? There is a founder of Substack. Yes, there is a founder, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he does a lot of lives. He's on.
When you said he's on a lot, he's on a lot of what?
He's on a lot of lives.
On a lot of stuff. But no, he is definitely on a lot
accessible,
of things.
yeah.
He is accessible, yeah, definitely. And we have Billy in the house. Hey, Billy.
Billy, hey.
I know you said you could join, and then we changed the time in Europe, so this has really messed up with you again, actually. But hopefully you can join at the proper time. Now everything will be back to normal, the new norm next week. But thanks for joining, Billy. It's really nice to see you. I'm glad you got everything sorted out with your new gear as well. Looking forward to seeing some of your content and stuff. So we've got a few takeaways for you, or trying to check the spelling. So some of the key takeaways I wanted to put here really is that, as we've said at the top of the call, it's basically a way to own your audience, right? You're not renting it from algorithms. You own that email list, and you can do what you want with that and take it and move it to other platforms if you need. If you're monetized, then 90% basically of what you earn is kept for you, and 10% goes to Substack. So that's obviously how they're making the money. And I'll be interested to see some statistics, actually, how many people who are on Substack. I think I'm 5 million subscribers now on Substack or something ridiculous. It's quite a high number, I think. How many of those people are actually have some sort of monetization platform? Are they, getting money from the newsletters and so on? I wonder what the percentage is free versus people who actually have that monetized platform on. I'll have to look at that. I'm interested. Number 3 is like you can build a discovery, right? So this is where you can find people. Lisa's mentioned notes and the recommendations as well, which is really powerful, where you have the recommendations listed and people recommend you and so on. And obviously on the app as well. So there's lots of, I think there's parity between the app on the phone and the web. I don't think there's any main differences now. There used to be a couple of weird things on the app where there's certain things you can't do on the app still, I think, versus what you can do on the web. So it's really a sort of a web-based or a browser-based platform first, but 90% of the things like notifications, you can do notes now and so on.
You can post.
And stuff. There is certain things you can't do, I think, but yeah, it's pretty good. And then, as we mentioned, it's one platform, right? So without having to go to various different tools and bringing everything in together, and that email list goes across all your platforms as well. So it's newsletter, podcasts, videos, and social. And what's next for Substack? That's the question. Apart from ads, I'm hoping there's some additional features, because ads is fine. But it depends on what they do from an ad revenue and whether there's any entry level tiers that you have to break through in order to be or be able to get ads. And I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if they've mentioned anything around that. Have they?
I think the smart thing is, because there's so many options, is just make these more robust and make them even better. I don't think they need to add anything right now. To me, it's a lot. It's a lot of choices.
It is a lot.
So let's make it as robust as you can.
And Neil, I've got a question for you in terms of sort of the UI and the back end, because I know when we first started diving into it, we had a few kind of questions and answers of backwards and forwards and things, but that's changed a bit recently as well. Are you finding it a more sort of intuitive platform to use from that point of view?
Yeah, it was a bit confusing, some of the things that they did, because they kept adding these features, but I don't think they really thought through, well, what does that look like from a UI perspective, and how are people actually going to use it? Because there was a few places in the UI that I just couldn't find.
I know. Yeah.
And especially if you have multiple accounts, because I have my own account, we have the Creative Amplifiers, which created them there, and then you bring people in. And the great thing is you can collaborate as well, which is something that we should mention, that we all collaborate on our single Substack instance. So both Mark and Lisa are editors and collaborators of that. So you can bring in multiple collaborators as well. I know some platforms actually charge for having teams based around your projects and things. So I think it's really nice that they're allowing people, if you're an organization or whatever it might be, that you've got multiple people that can allow you to collaborate. But I think, in answer to your question, it's a lot better than it was. They have made a few tweaks recently, and I couldn't find something the other day. I was cursing. I was just about to ping Lisa and go, where is this? But after having spent 20 minutes digging through the UI, it's there. I think it's not the most intuitive UI in the world, especially when you're just starting and building stuff up, because you've got all these different sections. But, if you need any help with that, we've done it now, both individually and collectively. So we do have some experience around how to navigate through Substack.
Can I just jump back about the collaboration thing? Yeah. That's something they are pushing right now. And so going back to what I said about reaching out to people who are in the same space as you or doing the similar thing, collaborate with them, because that's becoming a huge thing that Substack is encouraging.
Yeah.
So another reason to reach out and connect and start something new. You don't know where it's going to lead. Hello, guys. I met you how long ago?
There you go. Exactly. And speaking of Substack, because we have been talking about it all night, here is, and it's not logged in, but never mind. Here is our Substack page. And if we click on that subscribe button, it'll take you to $100 million for each of our posts. No, it's just click on Click on the link. You can see it there. Scan that QR code. That'll take you to the Substack. Sorry about that. It should have refreshed and logged in, but you get the gist. If you head over to our Substack page, all our content on there is free. We've got all our podcasts from a few seasons as well, and we do post regularly every month. At the moment, we were doing 3 every week, but that was quite a lot. But we just wanted to build up our content in there. And as Mark said, we do typically talk around a subject that we're coming up and speaking about live as well. So stay tuned for that. And if there are any things that you want us to talk about on this show or write about on our Substack, then you can leave a comment here, subscribe to our Substack, and join in the conversation and chat as well. And we're all friendly people as well. So we all have our own individual Substacks as well. So come and see what we're up to. It's fun. Any closing thoughts from either of you before we close the show today?
Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say with Billy in the house, whether he's used Substack in any way for his kind of sort of Amazon affiliate stuff and some of the branded deals that he's done with the Substack, something he's come across or used or know people that are using it, because I've not seen that in the same kind of way. But yeah, that was just a thought that crossed my mind. Live
shopping on Substack. That could be the next one. Yeah, you could.
I've come across some lifestyle people that are doing they have a very big blog presence, and they've moved it over here, and they're still doing the affiliate links. It still basically looks like their blog. So Substack does not frown on it. They're okay with it, as long as you say that that's what you have affiliate links there.
Right.
But yeah, that's an interesting thing. I would be curious what Billy has to say.
Interesting. And it is evolving. That's the main thing. I think with Substack, they're probably going to add more stuff in the next few months. I don't know what the next round is going to be. They keep making some tweaks and changes and things, but it is nice to be part of this community. I find it quite, as Mark said at the beginning of the show, quite a nice, safe place to be compared to other platforms. Let's put it that way. I kind of think everybody's there for the same reasons, though, as well. And that's the difference between certain communities that all have the same sort of focus: building a newsletter, writing, talking to people, building a community, and so on. So I think it's important.
And it's still early enough to get in. It's if people are worried, it's too late, it's getting saturated. I don't think so. I think it's still early enough. If you're going to do it, just go in and have fun with it and experiment. Like, don't put pressure on yourself with it.
Yeah. And you don't have to post content straight away. You can just create an account and start, lurking and looking at other people's stuff. At the end of the day, you can get inspiration and ideas. There's some great people on there that have been on, I think, Substack from like day one by the sound of things. They really know what they're doing on Substack. They post very regularly. They've got a big following. And you can see like the following and how that is represented by what they charge as well. Because, if they're an authority in that particular niche, then they can command a higher subscription fee on a monthly basis, and people will pay that if they really want that. It's just like anything else. So don't be afraid to explore.
The one thing I'd also say is that there are still some people who haven't heard of Substack or aren't aware of it in the general populace. And so one of the things I've been quite clear on sort of saying is the fact that, go and look at the Creative Amplifiers Substack. If you're not on Substack, it's basically working in that way. You can go and look at the page and see all the content, the stuff that's there, it's free. It's not that you need to join another platform in order to interact and to be part of this. So much of what's there is there for you to have. Obviously, if you then decide to subscribe or to have your own, be involved in the platform in another way, then that's a different thing. But we're using it like a more organic website from that point of view, which is sort of the way I describe it sometimes, where everything is there, but then you've got that interaction in those other options as well.
And I don't think it's a big ask of people these days. If you want to see our free content, all we ask for is your email address. I don't think it's a big ask. I think people sign up to all kinds of stuff. I mean, how much, as it's coming up to the holidays, you just start looking at your inbox. Remember all those things that you signed up for 30 years ago? Oh, they're all going to hit you with the inbox now. So it's interesting. It's my cleansing week, the run up to Christmas, where I start to go through and start to find that unsubscribe thing at the bottom where I've signed up. Why did I sign up for this? I don't need cat paper hats anymore. We've already got enough. Anyway,
if you're not signed up leading up to Christmas, you're not going to be able to see Neil in his kind of nutcracker outfit ready for our Christmas party. So it's always worth us putting an email in for those extra benefits.
Oh dear, our Christmas party.
okay, I think it's as good a time as any to just hit that close button. Thank you so much to both of you. We will be back. I was going to say the same time next week, but it won't be, will it? It'll be the same time for Mark and I, but it won't be the same time for Lisa. So the US will change their time. The world will be a much better place, and we'll all be in sync again this time next week. So we'll be back with a interesting topic next week. We're not going to give away what it is, but we'll talk about it next week. And we'll see you on the show. Thanks to everybody who's joined. It's really nice that you joined us and talk about Substack. And we'll see you same time next week. Bye for now.
See you later.